In case you guys hadn't seen, the Cycle Frontier has now gone into its 1.0 full-on launch, and I made a video a little while back kind of comparing the Cycle Frontier to Escape from Tarkov, the similarities, the differences, and the things about the Cycle that I was critical of, and the things about the Cycle that I liked. Most of those things still hold pretty true. The Cycle feels pretty polished, but there is one thing in particular that I do take a little bit of issue with that I wish the devs would do something about, and I kind of want to outline that in this video. So if you guys would entertain me with hanging out for just a few minutes, I'd like to talk more about this and get an idea of what you guys think. All right? Here we go. The Cycle Frontier can most easily be described as a looter shooter, where you have a 6-hour persistent running map between two separate maps, really, but are on a 6-hour life cycle where people fly in, fly out, or get killed, which is, I guess, called foamed. In this case, since your body turns into like this giant foam brick. You get missions from 3 separate factions to then go back, find items to collect, or kill missions where you kill things of the AI or end up killing other players in this case. And in that same vein of all of the things that the Cycle does right, one of them happens to be the load time. Between hitting the launch button, landing, getting out, and being able to get right back into a raid instance, it takes between 10 and 15 seconds on my computer. In fact, I haven't seen people talk about it taking any much more than 30 seconds in just about every circumstance. But the Cycle's main issue isn't in its gun mechanics, it isn't in the way that the maps are set up, it isn't in any of the running or stamina mechanics or any of those related things. The AI seems to be relatively okay, although it probably could stand to be a little bit smarter and more lethal. No, the core issue that I find in this game in particular has to do with the time to kill. And this could be some bias talking, because in my case, I come from a game called Escape from Tarkov, which most of the people that would view this video are familiar with. I play a lot of Escape from Tarkov. It's been the main game that I have played more or less for the last 4 years of my life. And in the 10,000-ish hours that I've amassed inside of raid instances for Escape from Tarkov, not to mention the countless hours that I have spent generating video content like this around that game, the one thing that always stands to be tried and true with Escape from Tarkov is that game is punishing, but in my experience, it is punishing in a way that is fair. And I don't mean from the sense of like the AI acts fairly, or other players don't exploit issues with the game code or anything like that. What I mean is, typically when you are hit by a bullet in Escape from Tarkov, that bullet does some marked amount of damage. You get shot in the leg, it hurts a lot. If you get shot in the head by just about every ballistic type of ammo there is in the game, just about all of those ammo types will kill you in one hit if you are shot in the head. Obviously, there are exceptions, but for the most part, if you get hit in the head by any bullet in Escape from Tarkov, you die. Yes, there are helmets and whatnot that can protect your head in those instances, but if you're hit with the right ammo, you still die. And this is the fundamental flaw that I find to be in the Cycle. Now, some people are going to disagree with that assessment, and they're going to say something like Tarkov has too short of a time to kill, and that is obviously up for debate, and that is more or less opinion based on whoever it is that's doing the talking. In my opinion, the short time to kill for Tarkov forces people to play more tactically, but it also provides the secondary benefit of making sure that how you play is more important than what you have on in a lot of cases. If you are somebody that has a relatively accurate rifle, you have the ability to take pretty good aim, and you're able to steady that, and you have some good ammunition inside of that rifle, you can one-tap just about everyone if you're able to catch them unaware, essentially jumping that person, or in a lot of cases, a squad, and cleaning up. Everyone has that opportunity in Tarkov, which is why I refer to that mechanic as something that is more fair. In the case of a game like the Cycle, you don't have that ability, especially not in the early game. And especially not against people that might be better geared than you. See, the Cycle has a bit more of an arcadey style of mechanic when it comes to armor and weapons. The ammunition that you use is uniform across all weapon types. It's just a different type of ammo goes in a different type of gun. In the case of sniper rifles, they just have sniper ammo. In the case of SMGs, they just have small arms ammo. And the list goes on and on. Shotguns have shotgun shells, not different types of shotgun shells, but just shotgun shells. Obviously, in Tarkov, this is vastly different. There's a bajillion different types of ammunition, all with their own interesting and unique properties, and you can kind of cater a build depending on what it is that you're trying to go for. But in the Cycle, the problem comes down to its matchmaking. really. See, they do have some type of matchmaking mechanic where based on how well you are geared, like let's say you're wearing all blue armor and you have a purple gun, you are more likely to be put up against people that are relatively equivalently geared compared to what you have on. So if you're wearing all gray or white items, you should end up seeing that equivalent level. Again, with the weapon systems and the armor in the game having color-coded value. With legendary weapons being gold and epic being purple, rare being blue, etc., etc., and those quality types are the things that dictate how well you are geared as well as the damage. Armor in this game is just a numerical value. See, in this case, a white helmet has 7 armor, a green one, 17, and a blue, 23. Massive gap between a white weapon that would go up against a blue helmet, or a white weapon going up against a blue chest piece. In the cycle, it's not based on ammunition, it's based on the firearm that determines how much damage and penetration that you do. So let's say I bring in a gray weapon, but I'm wearing blue armor. If I go up against other players that have gray or green weapons, they aren't really going to penetrate the armor that I'm wearing very well. I'm spongy. If I have a team of spongy players that comes up against a solo player, whether they get the jump on me or not, the overwhelming likelihood that they will lose is very, very high. You don't have a great equalizer like you do in Tarkov. Solo players tend to suffer in the Cycle Frontier, which in most cases means that as a solo player, rather than gearing up with all the bells and whistles, just for the chance that you could run into something more than just a single player and get your butt kicked, you tend to play solo with a pistol and a backpack, and you just go on a loot run and then leave, which doesn't end up being very engaging or fun for anyone. Instead, you end up holding on to all of the good stuff, you wait for your friends to come by, and then you squad up and go in as a duo or a trio. See, because the cycle doesn't differentiate, much like how Tarkov does it, between whether or not you're a solo player on that map or whether or not you are in a 3-man. See, teams just get put on the same map as solo players, just like in Tarkov. But because of the spongy aspect of the armor and weapons in this game, or armor versus weapons, I guess I should say, people just don't die that fast. No one gets one-tapped. No one. Not unless they're being shot by, like, an amazing weapon and they have horrible armor, or they got hurt just prior to that engagement. And because of the existence of that problem, you have squads of 2 and 3 people especially that just don't lose. Ever. In fact, since I've been playing the cycle between the beta phases and now, never in the history of running around as a 3-man has my 3-man been completely wiped. Ever. Not once. We always would come up against other duos or even solo players, and they would just get wiped. Because when you're in a 3-man, somebody gets hit, they fall back, they end up healing, they end up re-engaging, and the cycle continues. No one really ever gets completely knocked out. Sure, it happens from time to time. I just haven't seen it personally yet. But when I play solo, that's a completely different story. Sure, I'm fine against another single opponent, but if I go up against duos and trios, then we're in a world of hurt. Now, of course, in Tarkov, it goes the same way. Squads are much more likely to survive than others. But we have all had experiences where a solo player has wiped out 2, 3, 4, and 5-man teams. That does not happen, or seemingly never happens, in the Cycle Frontier. So in my opinion, there's only 2 ways to go about looking at this. So what do? There's only really 2 solutions that I can see to this problem. Aside from playing with friends, obviously, just go get more friends, 5-head. Of course. In my opinion, in order to be able to fix this from the game's side of things, you would either need to shrink the range that white armor versus blue or purple armor has against all of the different ballistic types in the game, making all of the crappier weapons better and the better weapons, I guess, a little bit worse, kind of shrinking that gap a little bit. Or the solo players need a solo lobby. Because if you're going to play by yourself, you should feel like you at least have a fighting chance. And right now, you just don't ever feel that way. And if you don't believe me, I would challenge you to try it. Go play the Cycle Frontier as a solo player. It feels very punishing. You can't really engage people. PvP becomes a thing that you have to run away from. In fact, last night, Shroud was playing and was running away from duos and trios because it doesn't make sense to engage them. The game is just too spongy on the time to kill. But I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just a boomer shaking my fist at the sky, crying that the game devs need to fix their game like some other people in these types of communities do. And if you are doing something different, though, as a solo player, if you guys watching this are solo players and you are doing something differently, what are you doing differently? Because I'm watching some of the best people to ever play shooting games as streamers struggling with the same issues that I'm talking about in this video, and I don't understand what the difference would be. Maybe there's something that I'm missing. Anyway, guys, that's what I have for this one. Thanks so much for coming by. Thank you very much for all of the love that you guys have been providing on the streams and whatnot. If you haven't come by a stream yet, please check me out at twitch.tv/onepeg. Please give me a follow on my socials at onepegmg on Twitter, and, maybe sub the channel if you haven't done that. All right? And we'll see you in the next one. Peace.